In yesterday class, we already completed about the static array. So now we'll see dynamic array. In static array,
Okay.
there is a memory wastage. So if you repeat number of occurrences and you try to insert only uh, new program, so you access 10 occurrence. Okay.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
in the execution JCL, you provide only three records in the array. Means there is a memory wastage in that static. Okay. Coming to this dynamic
So,
array, there is no memory wastage. So we can provide number of occurrences at execution time. Okay, in the execution JCL XRun, we can provide how many times you want to repeat the occurs. You can provide at the time of execution only. So there is no memory wastage in this dynamic array. So depending on class is mandatory while declaring the array. So while declaration of the array, we have to write the depending on class. So
okay.
depending on variable name. So this variable name will tell how many times of occurs class will repeat. Dynamic occurs variable to store number of occurrences. You can also call it like this. How to write the dynamic array? Process step by step in COBOL. Step 1. Array should be declared with depending on class. Means in the data division working storage section, we have to declare the array now. So at the time of, we have to write in array depending on class. Declare dynamic occurs variable in working storage section with numeric data type. So by using numeric data type, we can say how many times the occur class is going to repeat. So it should be in working storage section variable. Assign a value to dynamic occurs variable before processing the data. Based on the dynamic occurs
Hmm.
variable value, we can process the data in table. So based on this variable only, we can process number of records. So this is dynamic array in subscript. So declare a 01 IEMPL, it's my table name. 02 employee record occurs how many times? 50 times, depending on L. Okay. By using depending on class, declare the array. So in employee records, my fields are EID and ENAME. Okay, how many times this occur class will repeat? 50 times, maximum 50 times this occur class will repeat. So by using I variable, so on which position it starts from, and L is my depending on class variable. Except L means how many times you want to repeat this occur class. Okay, so in the execution JSL, if you give 5, okay, so here I have taken 2 bytes of fixed class. Why? Because here my maximum memory is 50. So 50 bytes carries 2 bytes now. So that's why I have taken 2 bytes of memory in here. And in the execution JSL, I have to do like this 0, 5. I want to repeat 5 times. Perform varying I from 1, I value start from 1 until I greater than L. I value is 1 and L value is 5. How many times this perform statement will repeat now? 5 times. Accept EID, accept ename and display that record until this condition is true and perform. Okay. So based on the depending on class only, this occurs class will repeat and there is no memory wastage in this dynamic array. Okay. So see in the execution JCL I have given two EID, ename, EID and ename. So basically this occur class will repeat how many times? 50 times. By using dynamic depending on class I have given how many times the occur class is going to repeat. 2 times only. I want to store only 2 records. Okay, there is no memory wastage. So if you remove this depending on class, so if you give only two records to this array, there is a memory wastage of 48 records. Okay. Next, so index in dynamic array. So by using index, 0 on my table name, 0 to employee record occurs 50 times depending on L indexed by I. My fields EID and ename. Depending on variable is L, so it should be numeric and 2 bytes, except that variable perform varying I from 1 by 1 until I greater than L. So based on L, so I have given L here 2 times. Okay, accept EID and ename and display those record and perform. Only 2 records will be stored. So in single table, we can use only one depending on class. That is also we can specify in record level. Okay, we have to give only one depending on class. So see in this example, 01 AMPL, 02 employee record occurs 1 to 1000 times. Here minimum is 1 and maximum is 1000. And my fields are EID and ename. So if I compile this program, I'll get maxi 8. And solution for this program is how to write depending on variable, depending on class variable. 01 table name, 0 to employee record occurs 1 to 1000 times depending on L and my fields, EID and ename. Okay. Now one more example, 01 employee table, 0 to employee record occurs 10 to 1000 times. Here, depending on L is there, depending on class L variable is there, EID and ename, and here minimum is 10 and maximum is 1000. And my depending on class variable and I, from which position to start from and accept that L. Compile this program. So here I have taken maximum is 1000. So it takes 4 bytes of memory now. So in execution JSL also I have to give like this 3 zeros and 3 if I want to store only 3 records. EID ename, EID ename, EID ename, and check what is the output. Okay, what is the main difference for static array and dynamic array? You can also call it as static occurs or dynamic occurs. In static array, we can provide number of occurrences at the time of array declaration only. At the time of array declaration only, we will tell how many times the occur class is going to repeat. But in dynamic array, we can provide number of occurrences at the time of execution. So at the time of execution only no. So how many times the occur class is going to repeat? Here maximum
Yes, sir.
1000 times. I am repeating only 3 times. No need to use depending on class variable in static array. Here must and should use depending on class variable. So if number of occurrences is constant, then prefer static array. Means like so in months, how many months are there in a year? 12 months. In a week, 7 days. So they are constant. So if it is a constant, then we can prefer static array. If it is varying means then we can prefer dynamic array. There is a chance for memory wastage in static array. There is no memory wastage in the dynamic array. Understand?